One thing that I usually don't do too much of here on the Drafthouse Diary, or anytime I'm talking about a movie, is that when I'm talking about a movie, I don't want to talk too much about the source material that it may have been adapted from, whether it's a book or a graphic novel or a stage play or something else. When I'm talking about the movie, I want to consider the movie on its own terms. I'm bending that rule a little bit now because I do like to let you know about the frame of mind I was in when I watched a movie, or any history that I have with it. When I went to see Stalker at the Alamo Drafthouse at Westminster on Monday, September 9th, 2024, I had read the book a few years before. That is, I had read the book Roadside Picnic by the Soviet authors Arkady and Boris Strugatsky. So I went into the movie expecting certain things, at least at a high level, from an adaptation of that novel. And those expectations were not met. And by that, I do not mean that the novel fell below my expectations or did not measure up in some way. Rather, it was a very different thing than the book, and the two are hard to compare. The setup is this. In more or less the present day, in some Eastern European or Western Asian country, a unique event has occurred. Something came from outer space, an impact or a visitation by members of some kind of advanced civilization. There was never any contact, no communication. Whatever it is didn't stick around. They just stopped here briefly and left. But they left behind a region of territory known as the Zone. Within the Zone, physics does not work the way it should. It is warped and changeable in dangerous and unpredictable ways. Also, there are little bits of technology or other materials that have been left behind, seemingly as debris, but these are so far beyond our understanding and our technology that the degree to which humans are able to adapt them or find some use for them is having its own dramatic impact on civilization. Access to the Zone is highly restricted and controlled. It's the domain limited to a special institute which gathers samples and materials from the Zone and studies them. However, there are other people who manage to get in. There are people called stalkers who go in and scavenge the Zone or act as guides for others who want to enter for their own purposes, either for profit or adventure, or because there is rumored to be somewhere in the Zone a place or an object that can make real one's most sincere desires. That is the setup for both the novel and the movie. And whereas the novel is a fairly concrete science fiction novel following the course of one stalker's career over the course of a number of years and a number of missions, the movie is about that stalker and one particular mission. On this trip, the stalker is leading two men, one a professor and the other a writer. I might even say the professor and the writer. And he's bringing them into the Zone in search of the room, the place that makes dreams come true. The movie takes this setup, and rather than giving us some straightforward tale of science fiction adventure, or even the very philosophical science fiction story from the novel, with lots of interior monologue and lots of emotional and philosophical content, no, the movie gives us essentially a Samuel Beckett play, a very surreal and existential tale in which our characters each represent a very specific and special archetype, and they declare their philosophical positions clearly and openly and bounce off one another in a very stagey, very artificial kind of way, but one which nevertheless sets up a tone that becomes engaging because it is so oddly consistent. I would not say that this is a great movie. There are times when it drags horribly and it seems incredibly slow, incredibly long. It's a late 70s Soviet artsy movie and all that that implies. But it is nevertheless interesting for its performances and for its ideas and for some of its cinematography. If this does interest you, I do recommend that you see it in a theater. I attempted to watch this movie several times at home, and I never got past the first 15 minutes because I was always distracted by something. This movie can be so slow and so abstract that it's easy to be pulled away from it. But in a theater, you're kind of committed, you're drawn in. And ideally, in a theater, there are no distractions. In my area, at least, it seems like the Alamo has at least a few screenings of this old movie every couple of years. So somebody in programming here must really like this movie. So keep an eye out, and maybe you'll get a chance to see it in a theater as well. Other parts of my trip to the Alamo. The pre-show did not necessarily feel like it was made for this movie. I didn't catch any specific references to Soviet cinema, no references to the Strogotskys or to the filmmaker, Andrei Tarkovsky, but it was very well suited to the movie. It gave us a music video featuring animated green aliens set to Kraftwerk's Autobahn, a trailer for the movie 1941, a performance of a Eurodisco spaceman love song, the B-52s doing Rock Lobster and Randy Newman's Cars, the trailer for Rock and Roll High School, and a lot more. It was very eclectic, but somehow tonally it was a fitting half hour before this movie. For dinner, I got the Hellfire burger. This is the third time that I've tried this. Once was at Littleton, once was at Sloan's Lake, and this time at Westminster. The Littleton version was terrible. For more about that, see my diary entry about David Lynch's Dune. The Sloan's Lake and the Westminster versions of the Hellfire burger were both very good. The staff at Westminster were all very good, and we were actually allowed into the auditorium a little bit early. Westminster is a very comfortable theater, and I was happy to see that the theater's wall of merch seems to have been refreshed. In general, the Alamo Drafthouse seems to have been on a push for their merchandise, including lots of promos for their Alamo Mart website. I hope you enjoyed this Drafthouse Diary. If you did, please click that like button, and if you want more of these as they come out, please click subscribe. I'll be back soon with more. In the meantime, enjoy your movies, and when you do, stay till the end of the credits.